Good afternoon, everybody, and greetings from Finland.
And especially from Espoo, we are here in the metropolitan area, our school.
So this is how Finland looks during this fall, but at the moment it's raining.
Cats and dogs.
And this is where we are. Espoo is located quite near Helsinki in southern part of Finland.
And our school is there in the upper left, right hand side, near to the Aalto University campus. So we are actually doing a lot of cooperation with the Aalto University.
So we are both history teachers, and Otaniemen Lukio is an upper secondary school, so where our students are like from 16 to 19 years old.
And we are a fairly big school in the Finnish scale because we have over 1,000 students.
So as I mentioned, we are both history and social studies teacher, and we've been working as a team for decades even.
Quite a long time, yes.
Yeah.
And if you want to contact us, please do it. You can find us from LinkedIn, and also our slideshow. You will find all our presentations. There are also ones which are in English.
So to start with, that history is basically how to create a good narrative.
It's kind of a
good story.
Compelling
narrative even, yeah.
And this is how to tell good stories. It was my professor saying, and when I was struggling with my MA thesis, then she said to me that, Pekka, it's just tell a good story. It's nothing so complicated.
But in the digital age, there are actually more or less at least 3 genres of digital storytelling, but actually we are mostly interested in the last one.
Yeah, we are historians, we are history teachers, so we talk about historical digital stories, which is, as Sari said, that it is a kind of digital version of the old age method of learning.
And when we first heard of this digital storytelling, our classroom looked like this, and I recall the year was 2011.
Yeah.
And this is how our classroom looked, and the students work in teams, but we have a problem to solve.
Yep, because well, there was a deployment of iPads, one-to-one iPads. Every student got his own personal iPad, and everybody said that this is crazy. These are entertainment devices. They are surfboards. They are just like looking. Huh? Sorry, what's happening? They are just. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. They are just looking at cat videos and not to concentrate on learning at all.
So, but we wanted to have this iPad to work as working tools, not just surfboards, and not just for entertainment, and then we started to digitalize our family histories. So
we did want to that the students are just consumers. We wanted that they are content creators.
And then we found out this some model that we really wanted to kind of redefine learning.
Yes. Now, for example, this digitalization has gone forward. Now in Finland, every high school student are given a laptop, and those are very, very expensive. And if they just substitute pen and paper, that's crazy. And if it just do some random Googling, that's augmentation, and even that isn't enough.
So actually, we had made family histories for years with paper and pen, but then like with this new tool, which was at that time iPad, that was something else. The learning became with these, I think, meaningful and personal.
Yeah, and then again, we were able to do these family stories. Well, we would actually do something which we had never done before.
And then our students, they are kind of, I would say that they are highly academic, which I already mentioned that history is storytelling, but it's not just that. We wanted our students to work like historians, like real historians, to compare sources, to collect information and find out the differences between primary and secondary sources, to think critically.
Yeah, and that's the power of the Finnish curriculum. We are not only teaching content, we are more and more teaching skills, and these are like collection of 21st century skills which are needed also in the work life. So this is something which will carry on also after they leave the school.
Even though the learning is done a lot in teams, but in this work, which we like to tell you more about, is it's work which is done individually, and it's called My Family During the Second World War.
And it is done in the mandatory Finnish history course, which every student has to take, and it's a mandatory coursework.
I think, can you recall how many digital stories have we already made during these years?
400, 500.
Maybe something like that. And now we want to show you at the beginning one story, so you get the idea what it's all about.
Okay, now I try to okay, new share. Okay, here. This is a story which we first would look. Is it here? Am I okay in the right place? No.
Yes.
Okay. This is Sarah. Would you like to say something about Sarah?
No, she was a second grade student, 17 years old, kind of shy, not making a noise of herself in the classroom.
And then he did this. This is only 43 seconds. This is in Finnish, but you get the idea what is happening here.
Äitini isä Kalevi Tervonen syntyi Kainuussa Paltamon pitäjässä 28. huhtikuuta vuonna 1930. Perheeseen kuuluivat isä Eeli ja äiti Suoma sekä vanhemmat sisarukset Laila, Olavi, Alli ja Elias. Suoma kuoli Kalevin ollessa alle 3-vuotias. Kalevi vietti lapsuutensa ja nuoruutensa perheen pienessä maalaistalossa Uurajärven rannalla. Tiluksiin kuului myös pieni pelto ja lisäksi perheellä oli kotieläimiä. Suurin osa kaikista elintarvikkeista saatiin omasta taloudesta ja kalastusta harjoitettiin ympäri vuoden. Ennen talvisodan alkua Euroopan tilanteen levottomuus kasvatti ihmisten pelkoa.
Okay.
So you probably got the idea that the family history is kind of a multimedia product where students use several kind of digital applications which they combined into a 5 or 6 minute long story.
And here all these elements of the digital storytelling is actually in these 43 seconds. There's a dramatic question, point of view, there's a peaceful life in northern Finland where his family lived, and then the war broke out.
So even though you didn't understand Finnish, so you could probably hear that there was a big emotion in Sarah's voice, and there's always a personal narrative voice which the students record to this story.
And the soundtrack also supported this story.
And there's usually music in the background.
And what was amazing was this pacing of how this video, where those pictures they change and they supported very nicely the story. And the pacing is very important because otherwise the video is boring. And also it's boring if it's the economy is also important because it can be boring if it's too long, and it can't be too short if because you have to explain you have to give your story also.
I recall once a student gave me a 25-minute long story, but it was really like a documentary. He's studying history at Helsinki University.
Yeah. So, but usually, let's say that they are young students. They are not documentarists. They are not trained documentarists. So it's better that stick in 5 to 7 minutes maximum.
So this is a picture when we start the work. We are showing this to the students. it's kind of a nice way to tell a good story. There's
this is a dramatic structure. This is a plot. How to actually make a plot for your story.
At the beginning, they are kind of presenting their families. It can be they can choose between it. It can be the mother's family or father's, and then they can even compare those two families. It can be an individual, or it can be a whole local village, for instance.
And they don't need to be soldiers. They can be women or children. But that's, as you saw here in the Sarah's work, that was the introduction, the beginning of the video.
So then the war breaks out, and something happens to the families, of course.
And then there is a solution. War ends, and then usually the storyteller actually reflects how the war actually affected to the family
and what happened to those people even after the war. And this is the work process where usually the Finnish mandatory history course, it's like 75 minutes. So we don't use for this project the whole course. It's the introduction lesson and then maybe 2 lessons. So most of the time the students work independently.
Yes, we have a Google Classroom as our learning platform. So these in the first lesson we give very meticulous instructions, and they will find those instructions also from in the platform. And that's why they have to also work quite a lot by themselves.
So that's why it's very important that it's a working process, that the teacher can see what the students is doing during the course. So they have to share a document with the teacher where they present the main characters and the main places and the sources, of course.
Yeah. And it should look like this. This is very well done. And when we are following what they are doing, we can also always give advice here. And if there's blank paper, then we said, well, come on, you have to pull your socks up.
So we can give them hints and documents and keep them going on further in their studies.
But so we have only 2 75-minute lessons for this kind of. I went too far away.
No.
So
this is the lesson actually where the students are able to take their sources, their letters, pictures, and to study in history lesson in school. And it's a very important moment that they can show to their teacher and to their peers what they have gathered and what they have in their family archives.
Yeah. And usually this is the lesson. We are now 4 teachers in our school, and if anyone has a free lesson during when Sari or me or whoever of us is having this special the lesson, we come to help, because it is then we can give as much this kind of contact time for students to help them to make sure that the stories actually will be sometimes ready.
Yeah, there might be 30 students, so we have time to meet the individual student, all of them. Yeah. in 2 lessons.
Yeah.
So this is a picture which shows that what kind of sources they are having, and they have letters, they have books, even though they are quite lazy to read books these days, but they have probably interviewed their grandparents or their parents.
Yeah, sometimes now it's lost. 10 years ago there was still alive a lot of grandparents, but now there's not so many are anymore alive. But it's important to find these kind of family archives, pictures, documents, or some artifacts like this. This is a handicraft made by my father's cousin. Did this in this handicraft in the when they were in the front.
1942.
Yes, 1942. Poor Reino didn't survive the war. Yeah, but these kind of artifacts are plenty in Finnish households.
Yeah, and they are taking pictures of those, and like it can be medals or even uniforms or whatever they find out, and then they digitalize those objects. And there we are in the classroom. They have some primary sources there, and it's of course usually the main thing is that they have something from their family archives, but not everybody really has.
And especially when you are doing digital storytelling, you need a lot of pictures. And if you don't have a lot of pictures of your own, then you have to rely on other sources.
So these are, we have mentioned here some essay pictures and Finna.fi, those are Finnish national picture archives, but there are also other material which have been digitalized, and it's quite easy access for the students to get primary sources through them.
SA picture archive is Finnish Army Picture Archive. There's 160,000 pictures, and they are very well indexed, and they are free, or you can use them freely. There is no, they are copyright free, and those are very important. Finna is like Europeana, but it's a national organization. There are, unfortunately, in Europeana there is not. There are quite many Finnish archives, museums, and libraries, but not all. In Finland, there is like 80 or 90% of the Finnish libraries and archives are in Finland.
So, for instance, we tell the students that, for instance, if there's a wounded person, which they probably don't have a picture of in their family archives, so they probably can get one from a Finnish military hospital, a picture from Finland, which doesn't necessarily have to be their relative, but it's a picture of, in general, of these wounded persons.
And then, okay, when all the material is gathered, then it's time to do the storyboard.
So I think this is one of the main things. They probably don't fill this up, but they have to have all their stuff ready before they start to record the whole story with their own narrative voice.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of applications for this. If you are like the Apple iOS world, there is an iMovie. For Windows people, there are Windows Video Editor, and also a lot of others, but we use Adobe Express.
So it's really, really easy.
Super easy.
Super easy. And in the end, when the whole story is just ready-made, they just download it to their personal computer and put the link to Google Classroom for the teacher to see it.
Yeah, this works like you need only Adobe account, and then the program itself, it works like drag and drop ways, and then you open the microphone and then you download the music. Adobe Express even offers free, this kind of copyright-free music. Not very good ones, but still, if you are in trouble or in a hurry, it helps students quite a lot.
It's easy that sometimes even the students they've made music of their own with GarageBand, or I recall one of my students once she was playing the piano music in the background, and it was really touching.
So
I think,
what kind of music they usually have?
They usually have like more or less classical instrumental slow music. It's not nice that you have funny music, because the memories can be quite
tough. Yeah,
quite tough.
Yeah.
First
we thought it would be nice to have this kind of wartime music, but then again, wartime music is usually cheerful, and it didn't suit at all. And then again, we realized that there is a copyright laws. There are also quite a lot of, still the wartime music is under copyright restrictions, and they are not free to use them.
So it's so easy that I think learning by doing is the easiest way to teach copyrights and the meaning of the digital footprint.
Yep, exactly. We are very, very strict that they have to obey the copyright laws and see what kind of Creative Commons licenses there are for the pictures or music they use. SA archives are once again great because they are copyright free, but we use for music that we are using Yamendo quite a lot.
Yeah,
it's a site where you can download music for free. You just have to mention whose music and give this kind of credit for it, but it is copyright free. And they use now this sort of ambient style music quite a lot.
Yeah. And then is the last and maybe the toughest part for the teacher to assess and evaluate the digital content, and you have to be really careful and thorough because the students, they have made spent so many hours with their works, and they really are looking forward to the feedback.
Yeah. We found this from Americans Tech for Learning site, and we built on it. We translated in Finnish and made it suit for our own curriculum.
And purposes.
And purposes. There are like 5 things you have to follow. Does the story fill its purpose? What much you have used this kind of good content and good quality content, and which means that you have to plan the work very well, and then how this whole design, the visual presentation actually support the story. But we show this, that these are the criteria, but we don't use this like one-to-one to our assessments.
Yeah, source criticism is also very important, but we have adjusted this to Finnish curricula, and it's usually that if we do digital storytelling where the students work in teams, they can like give peer review, but this is so sensitive for the students, so it's only the teacher who is giving like I usually write sentences and we got the feedback like a hamburger that you sandwich even, that you have to be very positive, and it's usually very, very mostly positive things that you
and then maybe a few things that what could have been done differently, so that they learn, not because they don't really make mistakes, but they could actually make them better what they are doing. Yeah.
And so the students, they are very, very like, usually they are motivated, and they have done a great job.
Great job, yes, exactly. So the challenge is
which I already mentioned, it's time consuming. I could spend hours to give feedback, and that's still not enough.
And it's really sometimes very sad that there is not enough this kind of personal time for the personal guidance. It's really, we should have more than 5 to 10 minutes. But there's also some students, they just work very nicely by themselves, but then there are students who need more guidance.
Yeah. And actually, it's nice that we are a team. So if it's Pekka's student, he or she can come to me, and I can give some advice. But it's not happening all the time. But there are also limits. I'm not a military historian.
And I when we started, I was like, what is how to do this kind of good visual presentation? It was not so. We have to learn a lot during this trip which we have done.
Yeah, Adobe Spark is so easy that you don't have to be a tech savvy to give support for the students. But still, there are challenges. And then for the students, it's sensitive issue, and we also have some immigrant background students. So not everybody is capable of doing the Finnish story during the war times.
Yes, of course. But then we offer then our other possibilities. We have quite a lot of Russian and Ukrainian background students, and they usually are able to do what their family endured during the Second World War. And those stories are sometimes really, really compelling. For example, there was one girl who said that her family, tell the story of her family in Leningrad during the Leningrad siege, 1900 days, and that was really, we need a lot of handkerchiefs, because sometimes watching these films, we watch them virtually in tears, in tears. Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And the students, it's sometimes they prefer to be, most of the students, they are quite conservative, and they prefer to be passive learners. So it's sometimes it's really tough for the teacher also to get the students out of their comfort zone, but and to get them motivated. But it's also a nice challenge for the teacher to to make the students realize that there are not really ready-made answers in history and in working life either.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, let's go forward. Yeah, but yeah, as I said, it's not easy, but it's worth it.
So would like to have a time to show a little clip.
Because this search for different abilities. You saw the Sarah, who was a shy girl, who made, and this assignment gives her a voice. But then there's this kind of, okay, you say, this is a young David Attenborough. Let's see.
So Sarah's work is the usual format the students are making their digital story. It's made chronologically, and but this is something different.
Vuosien 40–45 talvisota ja jatkosota on kaikille suomalaisille tuttuja, vähintäänkin sitten koulun penkiltä. Vaikka vuosiluvut ja se, miten sodan pääpiirteet meni, tiedetään aika hyvin, saattaa se, miten se vaikutti yksittäisiin ihmisiin tai ihmisryhmiin, jäädä hieman hämärän peittoon. Mun oma suku ei ikinä ollut oikeastaan rintamalla. He työskentelivät joko Nokian tehtailla, jotka haluttiin pitää sodankin aikana käynnissä. Tai...
Okay. So quite different approach. Very bold, brave young man explaining his story.
And then anti-story maybe.
Yeah, that's for different abilities and empowerment, or empowers learners. But it's also important, this intergenerational exchange, and this is very, very good film, how this connects the generations.
Struktuurille ja taloudelle, mutta kaikkein suurin niiden aiheuttama tuho on ihmishenkien menetys. Talvi- ja jatkosodassa kaatui yhteensä noin 90 000 suomalaista sotilasta. Sotilaita, jotka eivät olleet millään tapaa syyllisiä sotaan, jotka taistelivat maansa ja kotona odottaneiden rakkaiden puolesta. Vielä julmempaa on se, ettei sota rajoitu vain sotilaisiin. Se koskee koko kansaa. Siviilit saattavat menettää elinkeinonsa, omaisuutensa, kotinsa tai pahimmassa tapauksessa henkensä. Tämä on tarina isoisäni Leon ja hänen perheensä elämästä talvi- ja jatkosodan niitä edeltäneen vuosikymmenen ajalta.
So this is an example where this a teacher sees that the families are kind of making even the stories together, but it's I think it's the families we have gotten very good feedback from families. They are very, very keen that we are urging the students to produce these stories.
Yeah. And students mentioned usually that they look these videos in the kind of family festivities, and then there is older generation is going and clapping, good, well done, good job, and this is important for the whole family. How actually these stories which there are in the family, they bring them back to life.
And that's what we historians call historical empathy.
Okay, we have been now addressing to the education community quite a lot, but we promised to also talk to the heritage community and sector and the probably new professionals.
So we have used Europeana collections, and this was a project which we produced also with the learning scenario. It's in Europeana, and it's called the Belle Epoque, and it was a project which was it was planned to be in classroom, but then COVID-19 came, and this was produced online, and we divided the students into group. This job was made in teams, and at first we gave the students the guiding questions, which they had to like search information, and of the answers they produced a storyboard, where they added these pictures from Europeana collections.
And then they made a short video stories about the Paris in early 20th century. And well, this is not the only topic we use this kind of method. We had also, for example, industrialization and how it affects to the urban cities and people's lives. And last year we had the teacher trainees who visit us, and when we students were doing these topics again, this Belle Epoque story, and they were worried, do they really learn anything if they are just doing videos?
Yes, of course they are. In Finnish curriculum, it's said that you don't only teach content, but you also have to teach the students skills. And these are the digital skills which they need further in working life.
And the students themselves said that of course they learn everything about quite a lot about the Paris and or London in 19th century or early 20th century.
So here is the project which we made with Espoo City Museum, and it's a nice, I think, an example of the cooperation between schools and museums. It was actually it was 2017, where it was the year of Finland's independence, which was 6th of November. But after that, a civil war broke out in Finland, which lasted like 4 months.
And it was an awful time. And the Espoo City Museum decided to make this kind of exhibition about what happened in Espoo during the civil war. The exhibition's name was Broken Life. And they wanted us to cooperate with them because they know our digital stories.
So at first we went to Espoo City Museum, which is quite close to our school, and we had like 10 students with us, and in the background there's the people who work in the museum, and they already selected some archives and selected also some personal lives of reds and whites for the students to study and make research.
And here is the table variety of documents, but then the students also searched some extra additional material from the libraries and archives.
And then they started to produce videos, which the museum had like time, was it like 2 months or something like that? And then they were ready before the exhibition started. And then the museum also wanted to show for the audience our students' work.
It was like some kind of sideshow. There was a main exhibition, and then there was this pop-up or sideshow exhibition of our students' videos. And they were a few months there in the museum, and then they went to the tour around the Espoo, in the libraries of Espoo.
And our students were also asked to give some performance for the audience of their work, and I think that was. They were really proud of their work.
Yeah, exactly. And now we have quite a lot of hundreds of digital stories, and even these stories are now on my YouTube account. But it would be nice if they would be somewhere in public.
Yeah, which we mentioned, that we have some like hundreds of this work, that there would be a place where the audience and the families could watch them afterwards.
Yeah, and also other people if they are made public. And if there would be museums or archives which actually offer a platform for not only students, but everyone who wants to make this kind of, because this is a new way of gathering oral history, which is otherwise would be disappear.
Yes.
Okay.
And the last picture we'd like to show you is of these students which made these Civil War stories.
They also got to the competition called Tukok competition for bright young minds, and they got the third prize for their digital stories.
And here they are standing in front of their poster, which they made of these stories, and you can see even some paper dolls characters which are in the background. But I think with this picture I would like to end and to point out that history is polyphonic, and there are like several voices and silent history which these stories bring alive. There are women, children, minorities, not just kings and wars and politicians who are important in history. I think the most important character or the person in history is the student, him or herself.
Sure. And then again, these stories also show that they are important because, well, the content is of course important, but we don't learn history only by heart. We should never learn only history by heart, but also with heart. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we are ready to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. It was a fantastic presentation. I think that this is really digital education at work. You presented a lot of good practices happening right now, and I think Finland has been an example in their educational system for many other countries in Europe, and you can see it with your presentation. I'm also amazed that this already happened in 2011, so it's 10 years later. It's incredible. There's a lot of questions coming from the audience. I'm gonna start. I have for myself a lot, but let's start with.
Hello, Jokke.
I could guess that you know each other. So let's start with the question of Jokke. Okay, I wanted to know if students are aware of the Europeana repository. We understand that Finna must be your point of reference for language issues, of course. But please, can you give us a little bit more of context that if you have been using Europeana or not, if the students know what's the level of knowledge?
They should know, absolutely, they should know more. We always add the Europeana when we are giving them the sources that we could actually search. And for example, in this Belle Epoque production, they used Europeana. We gave them already a few like links, but of course they were not satisfied for them, and then they used Europeana more extensively. We have done Belle Epoque now after lockdown. We have done it like 2 or 3 times afterwards, and then in this Belle Epoque, which we use regularly in our teaching, they use Europeana.
Yeah. Also, I recall making a project with immigration, and that's where the students could find nice pictures out of there as well.
Yeah, but we should actually use them more and they also should spread the news that this is actually a very good site to get good quality material for teaching.
Yeah, also for the audience to know, I guess for those that are familiar already with the ecosystem of aggregation of Europeana, Finna is an aggregator of content. So, but it's true that not all the content in Finna is on Europeana. But well, I hope in the future we can also have those stories, because this could be also the test place, the stories that you are collecting from your students. And I know that Finna has a really good department, educational department, so maybe we could help there to connect and bring those materials. I think they have a lot of educational value, and needless to say. So let's move to the next question of our audience, and this is a good one. If a student's ancestors are not from Finland, which kind of how could they deliver a story? How was the strategy? Which was the strategy here?
We already told about those who are European, who comes from European countries, but yeah, that's we give them possibilities to tell another story, another war story. There was one girl from Eritrea, and that was actually very touching because, well, her family actually came to Finland because of the Eritrean war, and the family has never ever talked with each other why they actually went, why they wanted to emigrate from Eritrea. And then he told her parents' story, and it was the first time the family was discussing about this thing. That was really tough.
Yeah, I remember once I had a student. The relatives were from China, and once a student had relatives in Great Britain, but the Second World War was the topic, so they compared the Finnish macro level history, which is always combined to these stories. It's kind of woven, the micro history and macro history together. So they compared those two countries, what happened in China and what happened in Finland. So there are different kind of angles which we teachers try to solve and help the students. But there's always have been a solution.
When there was one Iraqi girl also told her story and how her family actually came to Finland, and then we realized that the war is awful in every Second World War or war in Iraq or war in Eritrea. They are awful, and there are a lot of similarities in the awfulness of the war.
Definitely, and this connects a bit with a couple of comments and questions that other people watching us were making in the chat. One was again from Joke, like how to really touch new generations, tackle things that are happening, conflicts that are happening right now, no? And Olga Trenetska also mentioned that why not to collaborate with other countries that they are having now probably experiencing the war situation, and then can also bring stories and maybe collaborate, or I don't know, the possibilities are endless. So I don't know if it crossed your mind to, instead of again, this is compulsory, this is you made it clear it was compulsory, in your history curricula, but maybe bring these other pieces from things that are happening now could be.
No, yes, I'm pretty sure that there would be now stories. For example, we have a lot of Ukrainian background students who have Ukrainian background, and this last half months we have been really had to discuss with them, and they probably want to also tell their stories, which are much more recent history, and that is okay, because once again, to compare this, sometimes we ask for these students, the Finnish who have Finnish background, that would they like to show their films, and that is, then some of them do it gladly, and then we can compare the experiences of war in different families, but also from different countries.
Yeah, thank you very much. Another interesting question, and that also popped up into my head, because you can see this is again a perfect example of blended learning. The digital learning can happen in many settings, not just online. So you explain it and offer a clear example of this. So, and also how many other subjects can cross history, or can because you are using design, you are using music, you are using creative tools into the history lesson. So they are asking us, do other teachers cooperate with like language teachers also could be introduce clear methodologies in history lessons. So have you worked with other colleagues from other subjects during those lessons to
Yeah, we should do it a lot more than we are doing at the moment. It's a way where the Finnish curriculum is urging the teachers to do. It's happening a lot on the primary level and in secondary level, but in the upper secondary level, it's always, we say that it's a matriculation examination, which is a block, but it's just a reason you should like get over it and do it more. We haven't, the students, they go to different teachers, but it's the structure in the upper secondary school, it's so tight at the moment, but we should get rid of that.
Yeah.
It's happening all the time, a little bit by bit, but.
And now we are in now we are in this new school. We have been now, this is our fourth year here, and this is a new school, and we are still building the school culture. In our old school, where most of the pictures were there, this last picture is from our new school. But then when we started in 2010, we had more cooperation there. But that was old, this kind of organization. We had ways to work. Now we are still finding, and there's been 2 years of COVID, so this has been really tough 3 years.
Definitely. I think just teachers can understand teachers when it comes to really put all the things that you need to prepare and deliver, and on the things you would like to really offer to your students. Let me go for the next question. Was about well, a nice comment from Ida saying that I would have loved to take this course when I was younger. Me too. Sounds like so much fun. Have the students learn a lot about the world? So that's also a very good question. So did you see like a learning path, and that you reached the learning goals? Did they learn what they needed to learn from the war?
Yeah, we have also a test in the end. So it's not just this like digital storytelling work. So we are teaching at the same time the macro level Finnish wartime history. So they have to pass the test.
But then, but then again, it's let's say that when they do these stories, and actually the Finnish Second World War is actually pretty complicated. Of course, it was part of the Second World War, but there was so much happening. And now when they are woving their own family stories to this macro story, then they actually learn better, understand what was happening in Finland during 1939, 1945, when we were, well, yeah.
Always when there are emotions involved, so it's easier to remember as well.
Mm-hmm. But we have also thought, should we actually change the topic? Why only war should we actually change the topic, for example, the building of after war years, or 1960s, or when there would be more material, maybe more interesting topics too.
Yeah, thank you. There's another question that is again related with what we just mentioned about how have you deployed the hundreds of digital stories? We understand from what you said that you are looking for a home for those materials, but for now, what are you do? How are you storing these materials? So everything is uploaded on YouTube. You have like a repository somewhere in the school. Which are your plans?
The students actually own the copyrights for their own work. So if they said that if there are some very, very good stories, and then we usually ask it, could we have this? And then they usually say, oh, of course we can have it. and then they are in our, well, they are in our hard drives, or in
Google Classroom.
Google Classroom and Google Drives. But yes, no, we don't have all the 500 or 600 what we have done, but maybe tens, maybe 100 very good ones. But they own the copyright, and they keep them when they leave the school. That's the rule.
Yeah. Actually, I was wondering, well, let me finish all the questions of the audience, and then, because I was really interested about how they learn copyright, if it was easy for you to tell about all the different kind of licensings available. But okay, let's move first to the questions of the audience and comments. Let me see, just reading comments. Okay, just greeting your work. So okay, let's talk about how they managed to find open license materials. I see that you already went to the repositories that have good content, trustworthy content, reliable content coming from Finna, but also the music you made. You took good care on finding also sources that were open license. But what was your perception coming from students? Was this something difficult for them to understand and to learn? And if this is a practice that you think that in the future will help them to really use open license material when creating, because this is something that it's really important. We are teaching them how to be producers of their own content, but they have to be aware of all this copyright law that can be a bit complicated, not just for them, even for the ones working in this. So, which was your perception and with working and trying to teach them this?
It is important that because we could actually say that we have this. If you do something for your private use, you can use actually whatever material you want. And even if we have in Finland, these schools actually pay for this kind of fee, so that if this material is in our school's intranet, they can use whatever material what they want. But we want to be a bit diffy in that sense, that we want them to be to annotate the material and also be careful what they use and see the Creative Commons licenses, what they are using. It's for their life, because that's important. It's important.
Good.
I don't think they found it very difficult, because there are so much material which is also free to use, like the Finnish Army picture archives.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm reading a Yoke message. The challenge is to keep totalitarian and authoritarian trends contained. Japan has an introverted. I think this is sorry. I think this is an answer from Yoke to another people in the audience. It's been a pleasure, Jukka, Pekka, and Sari. This has been, I think, a wonderful example for other educators and teachers in our community. And looking forward to see more learning scenarios that you will produce in the future in the Teaching with Europeana blog. And please, to the rest of the audience, join me to thank you. And hopefully you enjoyed the session, and see you soon.